Hello, welcome to Digital Strategy. This is course number 1 in Social School's Digital Marketing Certificate, and I'm your host, Kelly Doody. I'm the founder of Social School, and I must tell you that this is my absolute favorite class. Just don't tell any of our other courses that. But it's a fantastic, all-encompassing starting point and strategic launch pad from which to further or start a better modern marketing program for yourself or for your company. So digital strategy, of course, encompasses a number of marketing tactics and touch points. Social media marketing being just one of those. We're going to cover 8. We have bulked them into 8 pillars or themes, if you will, that are really, really powerful digital marketing tactics for this year and beyond. And social media marketing, but one of those, is in our social media certificate program for a reason. It's gigantic, it's exciting, it's full of endless opportunity and results, but we've separated that one out. We're going to be talking a lot about social strategy, of course, throughout this course and this certificate program, but you're going to hopefully learn a lot as well about everything from email marketing to blogging to search engine optimization, website optimization, Google Ads, advanced Facebook advertising, plenty of data science. We're going to have a great time. So if you're with us just for one course, digital strategy, that's okay too. This is hopefully going to be a great lay of the land for you about those big 8 buckets of digital marketing today. And then if you're ready to dive into future courses from there, we are thrilled to have you do so. So before I begin with module 1, I do just want to show you something, oops, wrong slide, when we have our module 1, module 2 PDFs, which are available, of course, for download for you in your dashboard. You also have your workbook. So you're going to see this throughout our digital marketing courses, including this one, course number 1. But the workbook is the PDF download for you in your dashboard that pulls together all of the worksheets that are interspersed throughout the program guides and the learning modules. So you'll see these in bright pink as I go through the course learning videos, and then you can come over here and either print or just use a digital version of this workbook and fill them out without being quite so hot pink. So this is what we call our workbook. When we refer to the worksheets, of course, we're talking about this guy. This is a big fat Google Sheets, and you can export it into an Excel format, which we've also already done for you if you have Excel. But if you're not a Word junkie, a Microsoft Office Word that is, and you would prefer to do it in a live dynamic format like Google Sheets, we really encourage you to do so. So you've got multiple tabs at the bottom of this guy, and we'll be running through it in the coming modules, don't you worry. But what we would ask you to do, please, is go and make your own copy. So you're going to make a copy, you're going to edit it and share it, or sorry, save it as your own and edit it and use it accordingly. So this is a very robust tool that we've created at Social School through years of work with clients and in agency side, as well as with our students and organizations and custom groups that have basically needed some kind of tool to map out and have a high level, right zeroed in to low level close-up version and viewpoint of all of the work that they're doing in their content strategy and their digital tactics and their social media tactics. So use that as you wish. I'll be referring to it often throughout this course, and you can take it or leave it, but it is designed to give you a really comprehensive starting point in terms of a master plan. If you have any questions about that whatsoever, please say the word. And if you need to find the link to that, it's going to hit you throughout the workbook, but you'll have that linked as well in your dashboard in course number 1, module 1. So it's not, the workbook is only found in module 1, not modules 2 and 3. So if you have to go back to module 1, please do. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in. So module 1, we're going to be talking about some serious kind of lay of the land stuff before we get into the buckets that I mentioned. What does that include? Well, a few strategic theoretical ideas here. They're really important. And as we saw at the end of 2019 and the end of that fabulous decade, we started to really understand and be able to wrap our heads around some of the trending ideas that were evolving in the year and the decade ahead. And I've categorized them into truth, tactics, and then some trends, but really looking at a truthful place of where we're at today as both consumers with our massive BS meters and, you know, our ad blockers and our unfollowing, unsubscribing, turning away and turning off, and then the truth that we want to hear and see and feel from the brands that we engage with. So we're going to really look at that and some fundamental ideas to leap off of before we get into the tactical execution. Beyond that, the trends, what's happening, what's coming tomorrow, but what's also in our world today, and how can you identify exactly what matters to you and your organization without feeling overwhelmed. And before I dive in any further, that is my request to you. As we move through this course, digital strategy, and the entire certificate program, if that's your thing, I really ask you to take it in, become dangerous at every single aspect of it. Know the language, so you're no longer going to be snowed by someone selling you the snake oil of an SEO contract that you don't really know what they're doing and you don't know what questions to ask. Become aware of the language, yes, but also who's doing what and why. And then most importantly, where are your people? Identifying what opportunities exist most strongly for you and what tactics of the buckets we're going to cover are the most timely for you. If you're starting from scratch and your marketing program isn't matured enough to be diving deep into SEO and data science and Google Ads, no problem. Knowing that is the first step and being okay with it is the second step. So really knowing that you don't have to be everywhere at all times. In fact, it's not a good idea to do so. And identifying what it is that you can start with and start doing better. I often say to people, if you were to blog 12 times this year, it's probably 12 times more than last year, but it doesn't have to be 50 times. We just need to start from some great place with a strategy behind it and then move forward and grow without getting completely overwhelmed and starting in an unsustainable place because we think we can do it all. So let's get to the finish line and make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. Here we go. So truth, tactics, and trends, and then the first three of our digital marketing buckets, the message, the content, and that social media marketing piece. A little bit of truth for us all to start with. First thing first, when we start with this idea of perpetual brand purpose, what we're talking about is knowing ourselves and our organization and the values and ideas of who we are and what we stand for more than ever. People are attracted to us and they are drawn to buy from us and repeatedly buy from us, as well as advocate for us when they feel us. We know who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And this doesn't have to be some massive pie in the sky, fluffy woo-woo concept because I'm selling HVAC services or I'm a physiotherapist, but it does have to be somewhat established so that I know as a consumer that when I come across Apple or Nike or Starbucks, for lack of better, not quite so multinational examples, but we can learn from these brands because they're employing the best copywriters, brand voice determiners, graphic designers, photographers in the world. And I know that whether I'm opening a new iPad in a spectacular white box, or I'm seeing an Apple commercial during the Super Bowl, or I'm at the pop-up shop in downtown New York, it's Apple. Their brand purpose and their voice and their tone are clear as mud. And I don't have to wonder, who are they on LinkedIn? Well, they're totally different on Twitter. And then there's their Instagram stories, totally out there. No, they are who they are, even if they have a slightly different take on themselves or their personality shines through slightly differently on different platforms and placements. But we know what they're for, and we either love it or we could care less. Which brings us to the very important concept of attracting our tribe, our people, those that are so drawn to what we stand for. And again, that could just be our furnace installation services because we're really honest people and we have the highest quality products. But it could also be something a little bit more controversial or contrarian where we do have to actually take a stand for something. We've seen brands do this really, really well. They lay a stake in something like anti-gun laws or, child labor or abortion. And we see that people become really polarized to them for or against but oftentimes it works out better for them. Perhaps the abortion issue is a bad one, but if you think about a company like American Eagle, several years ago with their real tween millennial audience, they knew that they could really go out on a limb and announce that they were, or take a stand that they were absolutely for tougher, stricter gun laws, because there had been a significant amount of incidents in the US affecting young people. And you better believe that that was a positive, powerful thing that they did. They attract a massive amount of new fans and followers. Did they isolate a few? Absolutely. But do they want that few? I suppose not. Could other brands of tween clothing follow suit? No, it would look like a total copycat campaign, but they took a stand. And we can think of that in multiple places and businesses. And we're going to show you some additional examples of these tribe-like brands where we're speaking to people, and what does it do? It makes them feel like they belong. And the word belonging is truthfully my mantra right now for the year and the decade ahead. That idea that we get further than the love and the loyalty, and we make people feel like they belong. They own our brand. They have a stake in our brand. We've set the stage and allowed them to engage, and they love it. They're here for a reason. We don't have to force advertising copy down their throats. So let's keep going. Another idea for you, and I want to start by asking you this question. What are your sticky bits? What is it that if somebody came back around after working with you for a year, they would say they remembered the most? Was it that you had like the sickest bathroom ever in your restaurant and it was super cool? Was it that you offered the most incredible return policy or customer service? Was it, like with us, that in fact people will take gigantic programs and oftentimes they come back and they say, yeah, man, it was those worksheets, or it was those one-liners that I developed, or those really powerful action statements that we did in that workshop. And we're like, okay, yeah, what about the other 5 weeks of training we did together? But really, what is it that is most memorable? And that is what develops that sticky content that you offer. And it could be a product, a service, again, anything, quality. It results in sticky customers. So we're going to get there. Throughout these videos, by the way, I'm going to ask you to pause me anytime you get sick of my voice, but also when you need to take some note of something. Go pen to paper. It's such a powerful way to pull ideas out of yourself that isn't just keyboard, where we spend 90% of our lives, sadly. So get creative. And as I'm asking you these questions, don't be afraid to push pause. Of course, as well, when we get to the worksheets that are throughout the modules, I'm going to ask you to push pause as well, or come back to it. Okay, so the question, of course, being, what is it that you do, you make, or you provide that people love you for? That is memorable, that is powerful, that gets them so attracted to doing business with you that not only are they circling back around as sticky customers, they're advocating for you and they're telling others about it. Again, is it a thing? Ideally, look at the end there. And there's an example from Spruce Meadows, a spectacular, yes, equestrian facility in Calgary, Alberta, but it's also just become a legendary attraction and organization and, just experience. And that word we're going to circle back to a lot as well. Is it your people? How amazing if it's your people, especially if you feel like you're stuck in that B2B, not necessarily the sexiest content or product offering in the world. You don't have a really cool boxing gym or cold pressed juice company to celebrate, but you do a really good job on tax returns and accounting services. So maybe it's your people that are going to be your standout thing that people love you for. What if we can even go beyond that and we can talk about now emotions, emotional connection, which is just another way to get to this belonging theory that we're trying to aim for like crazy. So is it a feeling that we can not play off of, but expand upon and really speak to in our content and our marketing efforts that go beyond the products and services that we sell into the way we make people feel? I'm getting excitedly nerdy here because this is such awesome stuff. And this is what changes content. This is where stories shine through. As the saying goes, the best stories evoke emotions because they're the most memorable. And it's when we are made to feel something that we, remember it, let alone act on it. So is it a sense of belonging? That would be the ideal. And then asking ourselves, now I'm stuttering, What is the opposite of annoyance? Is it delight? I would argue absolutely. So when we're thinking to ourselves, what is my email marketing strategy, or what kind of paid content are we putting out there? What are we really doing along the customer journey that doesn't just annoy? And I'm going to ask us to take off our marketing hats here, or our business ownership hats, and put on a consumer hat. What is it that you are exposed to right now in your Pinterest feed late at night, in your attempt to watch television, if you still do that on cable, in your social feeds, in your inbox, that is an ad or a piece of promoted content that doesn't straight up annoy you, that doesn't target you with like another sales pitch or some kind of spin that you feel like you can see right through, or that you're totally tuning out from, that you're not going to unsubscribe from or opt out of or unfollow. And chances are it's something that, yes, brings a few emotions to life that we've already talked about, but it also evokes delight, joy, humor, memorable sentiment, delight. Let's aim for that. So a quick case study here. Let's talk about that accounting firm and the marketing mix of what they may have going for them. So great, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and now we're trying out this thing called Instagram. And occasionally we have an e-newsletter, maybe once a quarter. What if we started to think about the content that is coming from this accounting firm, or this bank, or again, this dental office or physiotherapist? And the reason I'm using service-based examples is because they're often those B2B, business to business, or business to consumer without a sexy product on the end that's really easy to photograph, like the succulent plant shop down the street, or the super cool stash needle art lounge that way. We don't all have those types of opportunities to photograph and celebrate these really awesome consumer goods. So we're the accounting firm. Great. We could start to put out content that is, yes, resourceful, entertaining, insightful, helpful. Awesome. We're serving, we're getting beyond always be selling into always be serving. Amen. And we're thinking about something that might be a white paper. It might be a tip sheet. It might be something a little richer and deeper than just regurgitating the odd tax advice or, RRSP deadline that we see and we can easily share. And instead of just doing that tip sheet, what if it wasn't just something for small business owners, because that's my niche, that's going to help them fill out their super lame mileage log every year, or get their taxes done in a timely way by sending me the ingredients and the instructions to do it. But instead, what if I met them there on a webinar, on a call, to get them to the finish line? And this you're going to hear me say often, because when I think about what is the cognitive load of the general population in this decade and in this time that we live, where we are all so bombarded with stuff all the time, content, ads, paid, unpaid, life. And at the same time, we're thinking about the fact that we need to do better, and we need to read that ebook, and we need to save that white paper for later, and I need to read that content because it's related to my business. And then I just start to feel like I'm failing. Personally, I have a folder of must read or you're a marketing failure type materials, and I just don't get it done. And this is what I'm hearing every day from people. I get it. I know what I should be doing. I think I understand the concept of a blog. I know how I can make my podcast amazing or my Instagram shine. I just can't get it done. So what if we can really be helpful for people? What if we can get them to that finish line? It does inspire and educate, etc., but it makes them feel like they've shipped something, as Seth Godin, the famous author and marketer, writes. So we're thinking about the reasons to do this, of course, and now we're creating that sticky customer, the lifetime value that increases so substantially when we're no longer just seeing our marketing content and our digital marketing efforts as a way to, ply them full of our message and raise the awareness and interest in our products and services, but we're changing their emotional state. We're feeling like we're helping them win. So try to keep that in mind as we go. And if you think that you don't have an idea on how this kind of content marketing or content creation relates to your company and your offering, really think about that, how you can get people to feel differently and feel like they have this weight off their shoulders, that you get them, you understand them, and you're there for them. Which brings us to, who are these people? And when we say people, yeah, we mean the target audience. Who are they really though? Are they just women aged 35 to 55 that like red wine and, ski on the weekends? Or are they isolated lonely, hardworking entrepreneurs that maybe haven't been out with their girlfriends in a long, long time, or didn't have kids because it wasn't in the cards for them, or they read Maclean's magazine on the weekend and they also love Vogue, or, you know, they're wishing that they could get away from their corporate job, and they dream of doing something for themselves. What are those deepest desires? Maybe the crippling fears, and then ideally thinking about what's below the surface that we can speak to in a very clever way. And this is where we have copywriting classes all day long, because we create the kind of copy that really hits home the imagery, video, and visual content that we see today, with the words and the headlines and subject lines and copy that makes me feel like you get me. All right, another case study here. So a personal one. 3 hilarious, super cool moms, yours truly included, were turning 40 last year. And we invited you to a party. We invited all our friends to a party here at Social School campus. And my cheeky girlfriend Danielle named the subject line, "Your First Three-Way." And it was really fun. The invite was, you know, what happens when one friend has an event space and a husband in a band, and the other friend works in the beer industry, and the other friend just got your email, you know, quarantined. And we hilariously, I find, within hours, had a number of our friends sending us the screenshot of what the email looked like when, oh, there you go, when it showed up in their inbox on their mobile device. And the ads that were being targeted, in this case, this is, yes, an Evite, but Evite has allowed Google to place an ad placement on the bottom of that. And we're targeted, many of our friends, with dresses for older women. And as much as I'm like, I can laugh at this, I also think, well, of course I'm annoyed that some punk in his basement who's 21 years old or maybe 16 that's the best he can do in targeting what really could be so incredible if he knew some of those deeper desires of a bunch of girls turning 40 that would die to feel, I don't know, young and fun and free and attractive and maybe even sexy in their 40-year-old dress, and that was the copy. So really, this is an extreme example, but really thinking about what it is that people want to hear from us and how we are not just annoying or adding noise to the internet and the inbox, and we're reaching them where they are in the most memorable way, because it's possible. Even if this was, you know, earrings, or it was some kind of new, I don't know, vodka, or yes, I'm thinking of consumer goods here, but it could have also been a service. This is where an accountant could have keyword targeted any kind of email or something from Evite that talks about a 40th birthday and said, great, let's take you on vacation, or let's see how you're doing with your RRSPs. It doesn't have to be dresses, of course, but that people are, my point here is that people are not understanding those deep desires and surface level fears or wants and needs when they're developing their copy and their audience personas. So a question for you. Assignment number 2 so far. In 3 words, how do you want your people to feel? How do you want those on the receiving end of your product? And put on hold for a second here that you've got multiple audiences and they're all different ages. Can we not quantify those same groups into an emotion that encompasses all of them? I think we probably can. So really asking yourself what might make them feel relief, excitement, the kind of propensity to click through and see what it is you're selling, and ideally something that makes them feel like they belong. Maybe I now just belong to a group of, you know, adventure seeking 40-year-old women who are traveling the world, and I'm not there yet, but I aspire to be there and I want to feel like I am. I don't own a Harley Davidson yet. This is not my example, but let's say, because it's a pretty tribe-like brand, which we'll look at more in a minute. But I know that I aspire to that and I want to be a part of that. I want to feel like I belong to something, which, don't worry, we've got a lot of that coming up right now. So brilliant brands or really effective marketers, let's say, yes, they're building relationships with their people, both prospects and buyers and repeat buyers. They're building brand love, like the way I feel about Apple. Why? I'll never switch to a Samsung phone no matter how many times young, cool people tell me I should, because Apple has changed my life. What I've been able to do with a laptop and a cell phone to build a business that I love and provide for my family and employ a number of people and just have entrepreneurship in my life is thanks to a laptop. That's where it started. I feel the same way about Nike, having listened over a really long, dark winter in 2018 to the Phil Knight story. shoe dog. And he was in my ear every night on my dog walks. And it was an audiobook. He wasn't even the one reading it, but it's like morphed into my head that was his voice and his story. And when it was over, I was sad, like I missed him. And not only that, but I fell so much deeper in love with Nike, who I'd never really cared about. But I got absolutely the extreme version of him pulling back the curtains on that business, where it came from, what it stood for, what their values were, and the struggles and the triumphs and the service that they're offering to the world, the vision. And it's hard not to fall in love and feel like you've built a relationship with them. Beyond that, if I put on a pair of Nikes now, I feel like I belong to that movement. So you get the idea, and we can all achieve that in very, very small or hugely profound ways. Let's look at some examples. One image says it all: belonging, right? If this is you and you're these dudes, or you're these obstacle course adventure seeking people, that's your thing, and you know you belong. This is your team. You show up, you put on the foam finger, and you're part of your tribe. And every kind of mental health expert will say today that belonging and being around people is more important than ever. We can't just find this digitally. So, side note. What if you're a beekeeper? We're talking about hobbies, cultural groups, community organizations, institutions, fashion nerds who all feel the same about their, I don't know, colorful shirts and pants. You're part of a hip hop community. You're part of a race or a culture or a long-standing tradition. You straight up just know who you belong with your friends, and you dress the same and talk the same and attend the same music festivals. Religion is a no-brainer. We absolutely know what that feels like. What about when we see this belonging and this tribe-like mentality? Of course, this isn't brand related, but we're getting there, with a protest or a movement, like Hong Kong. We've all seen what's happening. Or pride, of course. Straight up just family. The belonging you feel with your friends and family, it brings so much joy. Or a brand like Harley Davidson, which is notoriously noted throughout marketing case studies and circles as a decades-old, generation-strong movement that people are so drawn to and are never going to leave. And Harley is known to not make the best bikes on the planet. But if you relate and understand and have an affinity for that type of person, whatever it is that their interests are, but let's say it starts with a Harley bike and then there's all the related affinity interests around it, you're going to be buying that bike. Or you're going to be drinking Red Bull, and you're so drawn to their energy and their adventurism and their, just like never say die attitude, where Red Bull doesn't have to have a can in hand ever. In fact, they make it their mandate not to. Sure, they plaster their logo all over all sorts of extreme sporting events and skydiving and motorbiking and ski cross. Yes, but we know it when we see it, and they attract the people that they attract for a reason. What about our friends Connor and Leslie at Camp Brand Goods in Calgary? These two, with a fancy little GIF here, know who they are. You know their brand values when you walk in the store, but you can follow them on Instagram for a minute, which is where they really amassed a huge following and have built a business off of organically, which is a whole other story. And they will tell that story really well. They got in it at the right time. They created aspirational, spectacular imagery that we all wanted to be a part of, and a hashtag that drew us into the mountains and wanted us to create the same user-generated content and tag them in it. And it doesn't take much to see what else they stand for, from social issues and personal views, and that they're family people and they now have a son, and we just love it. So we belong. Yes, we love, we trust, we embrace, advocate, refer, endorse, support, and we stay. We stay because we appreciate the people and the values behind those companies. And that is more important than ever today. We know that loyalty is fleeting. It is lower than it's ever been, meaning that there's never been more choice for what we have available to us at any given time, because suddenly there's 15 dentists showing up in my Instagram feed. And when that wasn't a thing, I went to the same dentist for 3 generations across town, because that's just what my family always did. But now this shiny ball is showing up in my feed, and they're kind of nearby, and I really like this girl and what she's saying and her new dental tactics, and she's got all these super cool human personable videos on LinkedIn about when I should brush my child's teeth and when a 1 year, what age a kid should start going to the dentist, and helpful fun. And also she's talking about her favorite like barbecue sauce recipe. She's really human. So that's what attracts us and might make us stay, hopefully, even longer. The shop around behavior and the lack of loyalty is something that we all have to be aware of because it's very real. Okay, so this is it. This is the screen, you guys, when we're talking about the tactics that live within digital marketing, and we're going to go deeper into 8 of them, but we have no shortage available to us. And this is the point where I'm going to say, and add your own, of course, there will be others. This isn't comprehensive by any means, but this is where it's important to start identifying where we can make some inroads. And where it is that we can really attract the people that we know we need to now and 5 years from now. Are they on Snapchat? Well, you better get on Snapchat. Are they loving TikTok? Same thing. Or are they still absolutely invested in LinkedIn? And how do you know that? Which we'll get to. A few trends. Well, let's look at them. Here we go. First one. We're going to talk about nailing the message. So you've got 3 here in this module, and then 2 in module 2, and the final 3 in module 3. And it all starts with this message where we know that the challenge is to speak to people in a one-to-one way that makes it feel like I'm speaking to only you. You're the one and only person designed for this message. I'm not CCing every journalist in the newsroom anymore, ever. And I'm not just sending a new newsletter out that's like blasting, you know, promotional messages to everybody on my list. I'm speaking to people using their name and using words like you and your. And I'm answering what it is that they want from me because I know their pain points and their desires. And I'm speaking to them like it's boutique, not big box. And as we like to say, if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. If I put a sandwich board outside my restaurant tomorrow that says, you know, everyone food, no one's coming in. But if I say it's Canadian Asian fusion or I don't know, Americano, no, that's what I like to drink. Americana meets diner. Great. If you're drawn to that, you're coming in. Or likewise, my nightclub. It's not everybody night or an everybody venue, sadly, because that gets us nowhere. It is, you know, cosplay 1980s anime night. And if that's your thing, you're on your way in. So we've seen some incredible evolutions of segmentation and personalization in our marketing tactics, like email marketing is the best example, but in everything we do with our messaging as well. And before, I love this screen because it's a really neat kind of reminder of where we've been. And our original goal was just to send or show content to the right people. And then it became, you know, about the right time of day, of week. Remember a few years ago when everyone was telling you to send your email marketing out on Tuesday mornings, your e-blasts, which we don't really call them anymore. And then everybody sent them out Tuesday morning like clockwork. And now it's about the right people at the right time for the right reason. Don't send me that male hair cream stuff anymore, Hudson's Bay, or, you know, Wayfair. I'm not into Office. I just want home. And you should be tagging me and segmenting me automatically as a savvy email marketer to know that I'm not going to receive the kind of stuff that's not interesting. I'm past diapers and not the adult kind, but the kid kind and the baby cribs and that whole phase of my life. And if it targets me and it's landing in my inbox and creating more noise in my head and my news feed, I'm out. Unsubscribe, unfollow. So how do we do it for the right reason? And then of course, the final piece, those right people. So now we know that these 40-year-old girls over here want to feel great and alive and well for the first time in a while and a night away from their kids, maybe their husbands. And how do we target them with the right kind of content? Again, for the right reason. It's not as hard as you think, by the way. Every email automation and list building software can do this now, as can our targeting. And we're going to get deep into all of those magical things when we hit Instagram, Facebook, Google advertising in a bit in the next courses. So here's our goal. Get the right content, seen by the right people or heard at the right time for the right reason. Absolutely. We know that marketing is no longer focused just on amassing people into the top of our funnel, acquisition, cold leads. Get as many people as you can that don't actually do anything. It used to be so much about how many eyeballs can we touch, how many people are going to see this billboard. And we know that when someone's selling us a line about, market on, I hate to say it, radio, TV, print, because we're in front of a million faces every week on the 401. Well, sorry, but how many of those people driving that massive highway through Toronto are actually candidates for what you're selling? And how many of them are going to actually do anything with it versus tune it out entirely? So we'll get really deep into the spray and pray approach that we used to do versus the really like drip segmented marketing that leads to advocacy and true retention. Okay, so on this idea of our message, we used to focus very much on our A game, and it still very much applies. But a few years ago, we started moving on from the 4 Ps of marketing that were traditionally talked about: promotion, place, product, price. And now we're looking at these A words, and they're awesome. Of course, it goes without saying that if we can be as authentic as we can, like Connor and Leslie, or like Apple and Steve Jobs, or the Nike guy, we're going to attract more people because our bullshit meter is so low today, and that is what we expect, not just request. The accessibility. This doesn't just mean that I can pick up a phone and actually get a human being on the line, although that is an expectation, just like a little chat bot on the homepage, because now it takes too long to be put into a queue of email where I'm going to get a response tomorrow from someone in Romania at 3 a.m. and then I'm going to respond to them at 3 p.m. my time, and it just goes through a whole thing. I want instantaneous answers and accessibility, but beyond that tactical aspect, I want access to the brand. I want you to pull it back and show me who you are. Who are your people? Make me feel like I'm connected with them, because now I can get wine from anyone or dental services from anyone. So are you accessible to me as a human? And do I like you and relate to you and appreciate what you're doing? Next up, authority. Who are we in our industries? How do we showcase our expertise, that we know what we're talking about? And this is a really important piece. We have to find that balance, especially, some of us more than others. Some of us, the polite Canadians, come in here, or male versus female. Can you be brash and authoritative, or do you have to do it in a more subtle way? But either way, you've got to show me who you are in your field, so that I do, at the end of the day, choose you for what I'm doing. And this applies, of course, more to the service-based practitioner sometimes than the product. What about a dog trainer, for example? We've worked with one for quite some time now in a number of our certificate programs, and love Leslie. And her low-hanging fruit of content as a dog trainer, boarder, groomer is, the cat memes on Facebook, or the moose on the loose video, or the latest grizzly bear in a paddling pool, viral video. Yeah, she's going to get a lot of likes, comments, shares, surface level action from that. But it's not going to be meaningful conversions, probably. And she's going to have to really work into her content mix, which we'll talk about very quickly here. The deeper content that has, the pillars brought into play, and the content categories that make it super meaningful. And what does that look like? Articles, long form content, blogs, email marketing, etc. So that she shows me, yeah, she's in the know and she's got some funny stuff, but she also knows what she's talking about, and I can trust her with my puppy. And finally, that advocacy piece, which goes without saying. If you do well and you impress and you provide and you help and you get someone to the finish line even better, they're going to advocate for you like crazy. And the really neat thing about social media marketing now and digital marketing is that we can do this at scale. If you surprise and delight and wow and impress and just straight up deliver for your customers, they're not just going to, tell their neighbor, they're going to post about it. And whether they have 200 friends on Facebook or 200,000 fans on Instagram, wonderful. You're now leveraging the power of their network as well. And we're scaling our positive results and comments. Or straight up, the Google reviews and the responses in the DMs, or not direct messages, in the responses to your comments on your social feeds. Don't underestimate the number of voyeurs that are seeing that and enjoying it and watching it and falling in love with you a little bit as they go. Okay, so we've got our A game. It's as powerful as ever. Now, what about when it meets this B game, that whole belonging thing that we just looked at? Again, think of those images, and we've got this idea in our heads. How do we get there? Well, tried and true, stop making it about you. It is about them and the problem you're solving, whether it's some super nerd who's like living his life to do the Spartan challenge and wants to get to the finish line in record time with all his pals, or, you know, the girls who want to get to that music festival so badly and they can't wait to do XYZ when they're there. We're solving a problem and we're making it about their experience and their needs way more than ours. We see that we can show the life-changing benefits or the transformation or the end result. And if we do that and we find a way to convey that, like you're never going to feel so good when you have this dress on at your 40th birthday party, for example, we're going to be that much more able to sell people into what we're doing. So, or sell people on us, I should say. I'm going to show you a couple examples of homepages of people that I love. And these are, yes, business life coachy, you know, woo-woo practitioners that have gigantic followings, as you'll see, but they are doing it really, really well, employing the best in the world. And doing it in a way that the moment I land on their homepage, it's about me and not them. Marie Forleo, the world needs that special gift that only you have. If that's for me, and I'm not bouncing because I'm like, ugh, this isn't my thing. I don't love these kind of ladies on the internet. Or I'm like, what? Wait, I have a gift? Tell me more. Where's your call to action? How do I get in there? This is about me. What about Gabby Bernstein? Similar. She's a meditation guru. She's a great author. I love this lady. And she does a really great job at making people feel like they belong. She's got membership programs, books, products, etc. And her tagline, become the happiest person you know. Are you kidding me? Yeah, where do I sign up? Start now. Yes, please. It's not New York Times bestselling author or Oprah's Super Soul Sunday regular guest speaker, you know, top 40 under whatever. It is about me, the person landing there and giving her 3 seconds of my goldfish size of attention for her to capture me and draw me in and leave me wanting more. Tony Robbins, finally, transform your life. I mean, if that's not the statement that's going to make me rethink every one of my taglines, I don't know what is. And incidentally, Gabby's statement had one of our good friends coming through our social retreat program several months ago change their entire outlook. It was a chiropractic clinic called Curo Chiro. Love them. Sohan and Keith were opening their new dream chiropractic business. They're in their late 20s. They're ready to go. And rather than, you know, chiropractic services that all serve the family and get you back to blah, 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 or we are the city's latest and greatest, blah, blah. No, they changed it to become the healthiest person you know. And it's really cool. You can look it up. So thanks to Gabby for that inspo. Transform your life. You get the idea. Sure, he's throwing in a little bit of a proof point right below that he knows what he's doing and he deserves your money and your time and attention. But it's also speaking to me, transform your life. Yes, please. It either reaches you because it's for you, like that kind of, you know, weird night happening at the nightclub down the street, or it's not for you and you move on. But way to drag them in, draw them in and get them segmented and self-selected before they go any further. What's better than that? Nothing. So yeah, we know that the struggle to be seen and heard is very real, and we've got to know our market, our people, our prospects, their pain points, their needs, their desires, and go where they are. So show up there. We're going to pull back the curtains, establish trust, and we're going to be as human as we possibly can. When you know that there's no barrier to entry for someone doing what you're doing right down the street tomorrow, and this isn't just to paint a picture of fear mongering or you know, scarcity mentality. This is to say that at any given time, most of us can agree that we're in an industry or a service or product offering that is repeatable and replaceable. And if someone's just happening to do a better job at their paid or content optimization, so that they're going to Google all the hard work you've done on lawn furnitures and patio sets, and that someone else has just better optimized their site and they're going to show up top of search, well, you've just lost that. Even if they saw your print ad and they tried to type in your name, Backyards Are Us, but instead someone's bidding against Backyards Are Us and they show up there. So the science behind marketing is so powerful, and those who get the back end as well as the front end storytelling are really winning. And when we show up for people, because there's a lot of competition or potential competition, it's because we're doing it in a way that makes us very human and that they'll choose us in the end. we're competing as a educational institution against big and small, but the biggest people for us to fight for market share with are educational institutions and post-secondary that have, you know, the same type of programs we do, but they're not as nimble, or they're not as timely and current because they're like a gigantic ship that can't move quite as quickly. Great. There's one of our benefits, or our maybe winning features that we can operate on in our company. But how do we get people to choose us? Well, we better make them want to work with us and not some other company doing it in a similar way. So if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And again, that idea of speaking one-to-one is so, so important. So let's look at some personas, and then you're going to do a bit of an exercise of your own here. So they let us dig a little deeper. Whether these are fictional or real, that's totally up to you. But this is a starting point for some of us, and others are really soundly solid in who their personas are and their target market. Others need to rethink this. Assign a name to it. Who is Janine, who's 44 down the street, that needs digital marketing training because she's frustrated about this and that and that, and she loves this coffee, and she has 2 cats, and her, you know, whatever it is. This is what she reads. This is how she feels. These are her political beliefs. Well, if I know that about my pretend Janine, and I know that this person is out there, but that I can catch a lot of other bees if I speak so specifically to my Janine, I'm going to start writing brilliant content, because I can talk to Janine all day long. It's going to be much less vague and impersonal, and absolutely you better believe that others are going to be drawn in as a result. It might be a totally different market audience too. Doesn't matter, because I'm not using Janine's name. I'm just speaking really authentically. We can also, you know, create personas based on segments. So this becomes very important when we look at creating our audiences in Google Ads and Facebook, Instagram ads, of course. But we can simply straight up look at geography, behavior, demographics. Anything psychological is really powerful as well. You know, who are they and what are they doing? That's really, really good stuff. And then another way, and this is awesome because now we're getting into the emotional side of things, we can focus on a job that a customer needs done right now. We can think about what it is that they're seeking, especially in a straight up Google search. This happens more on Google because we're often more statistically ready to buy when we're doing a Google search than we are, you know, cruising Instagram and being targeted with ads. But again, don't underestimate how many things we buy off of Instagram if they're done well. But either way, what is that pain point that they're searching for, and how are you showing up for them along that journey, which we'll look deeply at in SEO, course number 2. So now it's your turn. I want you to think about your audience, and I want to get you to get to know them and then dive deeper. Who are they? But who are they really is the point here. What are their psychographics and emotional considerations? And then from there, where do you know them to be? Where are those prospects? And if you have 3 or 10, it's up to you, but where do you think they are currently, and where are they headed? And it may go well beyond the suggestions here, but where are they spending their time, and how can you reach them there? And that, of course, then parlays into your next low-hanging fruit, or that dream customer or prospect. And this could take you into an entirely different segment or city or age demographic. It could take you from your existing retail or in-person base of customers into an online space or wholesale or whatever it is. But really thinking about where straight up you need to be. What kind of tactics are you employing? And then you've got to ask yourself, and this is where we're going to get better and better as we go at having actual data insights to prove and to verify what we think is happening. But how do you know this? And why do you think this? And what are you doing about it? What are you doing to elevate those places and show up not only better, but more often and more meaningfully with calls to action that speak to them and actually start to convert for you in those key places? So there you go. There's your next worksheet, which you can find in your workbook, and you can either do this now or come back to it when you're ready. And finally, yes, that 1E exercise, creating your fictional marketing target, and paying attention so much to question number 5 there. What can you do to convert them into a paid customer? Straight up, just give them better service and answer your phone when they call. Be available on Google when they're looking for you, or maybe, you know, show up on Instagram, which is where they're spending their time. Okay, moving right along to bucket number 2 in our modern marketing tactics, content. This isn't just, you know, what we see on social media marketing, of course. We're talking about the written and visual content across podcasts, email, blogging, video, and then of course our website and other things. This is where our C comes in. So if you haven't noticed yet, the A's, the B, the belonging, and then the C game, which of course beautifully complements it all. So with this, we start with the idea that the age of the individual is here. What do we mean by that? Well, it means that I have the most massive expectations as a customer than you would even believe as a brand or a business owner. But if you, again, put on your customer hat, so too do you. If you're watching Netflix today and it doesn't recommend to you the exact thing that you might want to watch next, you may also like this. You're like, what? And unless it's your husband wrecking your algorithm on Netflix or Spotify or Google Play, then you're disappointed. In the same way that when I am surfing or scrolling or going through my inbox, if it's not targeting me in the way that I want to be targeted or serving me up the kind of value I expect, I'm out, I'm gone, I'm unsubscribing, I'm following. So we have extremely high expectations in terms of the service we're getting, the content, the messaging we're receiving, and the actual timeliness of responses and everything else. Is this a problem for brands? Yeah, it sure is, but we can find ways to cut down on the pain points. So we're going to look at this in customer journey and have as many experience makers and as few experience breakers as we possibly can. And automation can help with that. Next, the idea that customer experience trumps all. I shouldn't have used the word trump, but it definitely is what people are after, in the same way that we want human brands and we want storytelling that moves into story living. We want experience. We want to say that, yeah, you know, it wasn't, and I don't just mean at the music festival, because we can all wrap our heads around what that looks like. But when I started with, you know, the booking of my WestJet flight, and I used the app and it was easy to log into my account and there was my points and my MasterCard's connected and I get the free baggage and then the check-in was easy and the Wi-Fi worked on the plane and yada, yada, I'm happy. The experience of, again, high expectations of seamlessness and high delivery, as well as just like something joyful. There was as few pain points along the way as possible. And what I experienced jived with what you're telling me in your marketing messages. So that, yeah, like everything you're saying, United Airlines, about being friendly and personable and wonderful, I actually buy because I saw that when I experienced it. Every single one of us has the power at our fingertips to step out on the street today, right now, and post whatever we want to about a brand, which is scary, but crazy and powerful. So how are we making it so that those who advocate for us or experience our companies or our brands or our services do it in a way that is, you know, as positive as possible? And there we have that idea. Storytelling and talking at people about what we're about has shifted into letting them live our brand, to live the experience of the dental office or of the dog walk or of the accounting tax return or, yeah, of the concert. And how are we letting people own that a little bit for us? So I love this quote from another author and marketer, Mark Schaefer. He says, marketing must transition from being the creators of messages to the owners and sustainers of the experience. So getting away from Mad Men of the 60s where, you know, we're advertising, we're puking messages at people and they're eating it up because this is a new thing. If you tell me to buy that Ivory soap or drink that Heineken beer or that I need to be traveling on this airline, I'm probably going to do it. And fast forward several decades into 2020 and beyond. And again, we're like, no, don't tell me what to think or do because I'm so tired of being promoted and marketed to. I want to feel like I own this brand and I have the power at my fingertips to experience it, live it, buy from it, advocate for it. Or the opposite, talk trash about it. The consumer is in control is the idea here. And this is scary to a lot of people and it might sound extreme, but they are. They're in control of whether they buy or not, but also how they take your brand to the next level. And if we help them get there or advocate for us in a way that works for us as well, we're not manipulating the situation, but we're certainly, again, living into that or stepping into that idea that if we set the stage, they will engage, not just by delivering awesome products and services, but being really human and personable and wanting them to connect with us and get to know us even better. So what do? How do we figure out what to say? And this is so important, and it's why the content piece stands alone as its own bucket, because we need to develop what we call our content pillars. And then from there, some categories that are universal, and then ways in which we can be the solution for people. So the pillars, this is probably our most, I don't know, dare I say profound thing that we talk about at Social School in all of our courses, but it really does allow people, independents, multinationals, nonprofits, to break their content into a few different buckets or pillars. And what does it do? Well, for one, it helps us tick our mandates off so that it doesn't all just become educational, boring, dry stuff, or not all entertaining fluff, surface level, clickbait. And it keeps variation happening so that our readers or our openers or our followers don't get bored and they can't wait to see what else we're doing. So these three here, educate, inspire, and entertain, those are the easiest pillars and most universally adopted that we can work with. What's another example? Well, here's a few. Advocate, support, connect, community. Or, maybe if you're not quite able to break your pillars into something emotional, which is probably the ideal if you can get there, because your content will get a little richer, then maybe you want to start with product categories, which is totally fine. You're a flooring company and your pillars are renovation, residential, and commercial. And go figure, it's also the entry portals or the thumbnails on your website as to where someone would enter. And again, self-segment right off the hop. So you can think about it however which way makes the most sense to you. That final piece there, promotional. If we were to look at our content mix and our pillars in a kind of pie chart, we would have a sliver there that's probably 10% promotional. And 50% of our content, our first pillar, which is really educational, but we call it digital marketing and social media. Then it's community and culture, where we talk about our people and our faculty and our alumni and our, our friends and people doing really neat things in the industry. And then the final piece is advocacy and brand voice, where we can really dive into personality and people and ideas and dreams and desires about startups and established brands, etc. And then we have that promotional piece where if done well, it doesn't feel promotional at all. It just slides in there and it also has really rich content, but there's a message or a call to action in it. Now, once we get our pillars established, which I absolutely encourage you to do, if you haven't done that yet, this is a very important exercise that you're going to be prompted to do here in a minute. Once we have those, which are generally unique to our business, unless you go with the three tried and true ones, educate, entertain, inspire, that I mentioned. But then we get into content categories that further vary and break up the content in our pillars. So that is universally applied to everyone. And these are some examples here. But you think about trends and tips, how-tos, mythbusters, did you know, stats, facts, behind the scenes, unboxings, etc., testimonials. Those can be, we can have a testimonial in educate, a testimonial in inspire, and a testimonial in entertain. We can really now start to see this multiplicity that starts to happen with our content when we suddenly have 28 pieces of content. If we apply our 10 categories times 3, I guess that would be 30 pieces of content. So it's your turn. First things first, what platforms on social, but you can also apply these to digital if you prefer, if you want to say one of them is blogging and then it's LinkedIn and Instagram, but what are you most prepared to focus on in the 12 months ahead? And this is really important to stop and ask yourself. We don't want you to think about 8 that you're going to break into deeply, because again, it has to be sustainable and realistic. And once you're doing those well and you're seeing what's working and you're able to be nimble and tweak and optimize those, then you can add in additional things. And then how frequently? So this is an important, basically throwdown right here, because we're going to build on this. But how many times per month or per week are you going to publish to each of them? A great recommend, if you're blogging, I'd say at least 2 blogs a month. And if you're going to do email marketing, same thing. We have an email marketing program that runs once a week because it's that important to us and it's our most high converting digital tactic. When we send out an e-newsletter to our segmented and well-nurtured and targeted, tailored list, we have really high return on and conversion. But very rarely, maybe 1 in 8, are we asking for something, or are we selling something? We're serving, and then asking, do you want to come to this? Did you know this is happening? Here's our event listing. But valuable, resourceful, educational tips, how-tos, testimonials, etc. A question about overuse, overlap and reusing any of your content from platform to platform. This is okay. Ideal scenario would be that if you're developing, your 2 blogs, your 2 e-newsletters, and your 20 original social posts per month, which is a great recommend, of those, you're going to do a bit of tweaking between your 3 main social platforms. Facebook's going to get a little bit longer, deeper, 2 to 3 sentences, not 20. Instagram's going to be tight, bright captions and one-liners. And LinkedIn, you're going to expand some of those posts into an article here or there, again, a longer form content. Or maybe straight up, it's just 20 original, awesome, high quality Instagram posts per month. And then you work your way into a bit of Facebook and a bit of LinkedIn or Twitter. And then what is the goal behind it all? And if you don't know this right yet, that's okay. We're going to be looking at insights and optimization of content as we go. And what are the metrics most important to you? For now, is it just some likes, page likes on Facebook, and some maybe, comments and engagement on Instagram? Or is it conversions, where we have these meaningful actions that we now are using as our benchmark, not likes, comments, shares, vanity metrics that don't really pay off for us. They're great initially, and then we kind of go, so what? So I got 300 likes on that new, broiled chicken post. Who cares anymore? I'm spending all this money and time now on better photography and better planning and automation and better copywriting. But how am I actually improving my sales and the revenue? And that is what most clients will say to any agency or social media marketer. So what? Show me how this is affecting my bottom line, because that's what I need to know. So thinking about your meaningful metrics, actions, and conversions, and what are they? We'll look at that deeper as we go. Finally, what are some additional tactics and tools that you can think about here? So, beyond those platform goals, are you just straight up starting out with a better website that's mobile friendly and doesn't take an hour to load? Do you need to work on your photography because you've got nothing right now and you're going to invest in some quarterly shoots for $500 a quarter, not $5,000? Or perhaps some video, you're going to work in some really sound video tactics and get yourself set up with some awesome kind of animated or video content, graphics, influencer marketing, blogging, etc. Remember, we're in digital marketing here. We're not just in social media marketing. So what is the mix that's going to work for you, and how frequently again, and who's doing it? How can you think about that? So taking some time to fill that out now if you can. And let's have a throwdown here. So the content mix, your themes, pillars, and categories. This is your chance to really hone in on what those are. How many have you got? How many are you currently using, or does everything feel promotional? Are you only posting from the trade show floor and really losing people as you go? Or only thinking to post when you've suddenly realized you have 15 tickets left to sell to your 15-person mastermind next week, or that your spring sales are down, or whatever it is? Can you actually break out your content into something emotional or deeper? And if not, how can we improve on that? Okay, next up, social media marketing. And sorry, I'm gonna go back one slide there. If you don't have any right now, this is your chance to write yours down. So determine what your content pillars are. And then if you wanna add some categories to those, you certainly can. Okay, social media marketing, ready? This is our third bucket and our final one here in module 1. So you're almost ready for a break. And we're building on what we just talked about. This is my friend Lindsay right there from Bode, Canada. It's a really neat new, just super cool digital real estate app, which is helping people better buy and sell houses. And they've just gotten going. And for them, we worked with this company in our social retreat for 3 days intensively, and determining their content pillars. If I look at this and I put on my marketing hat, let's even say that they went with educate, entertain, inspire, and then they did the how-tos, testimonials, did you knows, behind the scenes, get to know us, myth busters as their content categories. We can start to take a look at these posts and determine where those fall into. We are not just going to have a bunch of testimonials with quotes. We've mixed up the graphics for those. We're also not just going to have, you know, a picture of the app or the can in hand of someone using a phone and downloading the app. No, no, no. We're showing the end result. Remember the transformation. If we can convey that, we're winning. So we're showing a beautiful home that someone can move into, or, you know, spectacular local installations or art or architecture, design, trends, etc., that go into that maybe educate piece. Or maybe that for them is entertain. Remembering that entertain doesn't always have to be a romantic comedy. It can be a documentary, and it's really powerful, aspirational, inspirational stuff sometimes. So when you're scrolling some of these really well aesthetic, kind of beautiful aesthetic feeds, where you know that they've got a photo filter happening and some kind of plan within it, we'll look at a few more as we go, don't worry. You can start to pick apart how they're delivering their content variation and what keeps it interesting. What makes me stop scrolling to see what Bode's going to post next, and how it all just jives so beautifully together. And yes, this is a very, very polished platform today, and love it or hate it, that's what Instagram is for brands. But that's where we can use stories and IGTV to be a lot more raw. So Instagram is infinitely powerful. It's past the billion monthly active user mark in 2019, and it's an amazing place to invest yourself. And remember, this is an app, technology, real estate. If you think that what you've got is going on is boring, remember to dive a little deeper, pull back the curtains and show the people and the end result and the passion behind it. Get them to the finish line. So no excuses if you're the accountant who thinks that you shouldn't be on Instagram. Yes, you can. Show me your clients. I know you've got you've got maybe some privacy issues. You've got kids to deal with. We all have those, you guys. We all have this, you know, certain iteration or version of you know, can't get the story or can't possibly be that interesting. We've got to find a way to work through it. Less is more, quality rules, variation wins. Fast Company, one of my favorite magazines. Obviously, we can see they have more than 500,000 followers on their Instagram feed as well. But again, that beautiful dynamic where within this, they would have their pillars. You can sometimes even see it laid out in someone's story highlights there, all those little circles at the top. Or maybe those are just their latest feature articles for this magazine. But beyond the content pillars and the content categories, we're also seeing beautiful content types. So there you go. I've just added the third level of complexity. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about graphics, animations, illustrations, original photography, stock photography, video, carousels. Content types that keep it super interesting. And much like your favorite print magazine, just coincidence that this is the Instagram feed of a magazine, but you think about opening Vogue, and no, let's think of one with more feature articles, Rolling Stone or Fast Company or Inc., Entrepreneur Magazine. You've got spectacular layout, and magazines, print glossy mags, not the rags, but the mags, were the first to really figure this out, where the reader experience on paper, but now we do this digitally, was so important. Calling out headlines and quotes and making your eyes soar down the page in a way that is, you can't wait to read more. And every feature story is laid out a little differently. This is publishing design, and it's been a trade and a skill for decades for a reason. And now we're trying to do this in our own website design. This is UX, user experience, and making it so that people are drawn in. And we're not just puking them a whole bunch of the same types of images or the same type of copy. It's to the point where, and I used to work for a newspaper, two of them, a tabloid and a broadsheet, the Calgary Herald. And when I open the Herald now, Calgary's most long-standing, oldest, spectacular newspaper, I feel like someone's playing a joke on me. I'm like, what is all this text? Columns and columns and pages and pages and pages of words. And it's overwhelming. Because within such a short amount of time, less than a decade, and really less than 5 years, we have gotten so used to reading in headlines and imagery, just like we do on Instagram or in the LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter news feed. Headlines, bullets, sound bites, taglines, subject lines in any newsletter. My version of now opening the promotional emails that I'm subscribed to in my Gmail or my regular inbox is literally clicking on promotions at the top, and that Gmail has brilliantly segmented for me, and just scrolling the subject lines, and I feel like I've read them all. And maybe 1 in 100 I'll open if it's really punchy. So if that's my version of an open, well, we're all in trouble, and I'm in trouble from the people not opening my emails. And we've really got to think about what's going to leave people coming back for more. And oftentimes it's that curiosity, delight, and variation. Adding value at every corner. Cabin Brewing from Calgary, such a spectacular brewery. And I love the craft brewers and the coffee industry and the wine industry of the last decade, because we have seen graphics and art and creativity come in like in a rush, just an incredible a groundswell of neatness, I guess. And here I'm getting really excited again. But we've seen these companies go way beyond what was done for decades, years, generations, in the staid, boring, typical everything. And yeah, are they attracting a younger audience? Sure, but it's still super attractive to an older audience as well. Why? Because we're all attracted to humor, art, design, cool people doing cool things. So they're adding value. The real point of this slide here is to talk about how Cabin is making me feel like I've learned something, or that I have a shareable moment. They've given me dinner party conversation tonight, or even just Sunday dinner with my husband and my kids, where I can be like, yo, I saw this new thing, this beer was named after this thing. I've got a shareable story. That has just created some kind of advocacy and awareness and value for me, that I'm gonna come back for more and see what they're saying tomorrow. So we're remaining authentic, but as I said earlier, we're doing it at scale. We're reaching so many more people. When we look at customer journey in some of the modules and courses ahead here, we're going to talk about how the physical touch points that we used to live and die by, because it's all we had, handshakes, billboards, phone calls, face-to-face meetings, personal gifting afterwards as a thank you present, come back around, come back next year when I have another physical product to sell you. We're now doing that digitally with social, comments, responses, videos, a human element that is published on the internet and seen by millions potentially. And we're scaling our reach as a result, and hopefully the results of that effort. So what do we need to do? We need to stop interrupting people. We need to stop shoving stuff down their throats and start delivering. We know they have a second screen when a commercial comes on. We know that we've never been more annoyed at a YouTube pre-roll ad where Ford is throwing you, imagery and videos of their trucks when you're just trying to watch the new season of Workin' Moms. And we also know that people are tuning out and ad blocking and unsubscribing at higher rates than ever before. Because again, it's just gotten to the point where we're so inundated. So give, don't get, don't sell, but ask. Never before has it been more annoying when a telemarketer calls you on your cell phone. Because forget privacy and why are you calling me at dinner time and oh my God, lose my number. Like nurture me along. Let me feel like I'm a part of what you're doing and I know you and I like you and I trust you before I'm ever going to buy something from you. Are you kidding me? So that's permission marketing that Seth Godin has been talking about for a long, long time. Gary Vaynerchuk, who I sometimes refer to as my boyfriend, very brash marketer from New York, multiple books. And one of his books is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. You give, all this great, valuable content. And yeah, you've reconciled with the fact that you've got to pay for that to develop it and publish it and promote it. You might have an entire team doing that because you know how valuable it is then when that lead comes through the door or lands in your inbox. You've worked for it. You've earned it because they trust you now and they want to do business with you. So from there, we create a content calendar. We commit to a process and the frequency and amount that we talked about earlier. And then we play the long game. We get out of this idea that social media marketing or content marketing needs to pay off tomorrow. Like we're all a bunch of 19-year-olds expecting immediate gratification and results. If you think about how long we've had social media in our lives, 10, 12 years, and 5 years maybe as businesses, if that for many of us. And then we're thinking about where we're going to be in 5, 10, 20 years as a business, whether you're still in it or not. For sure, these assets will be around. You can guarantee it. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat, these are billion-dollar enterprises that are not going away. And I'd say that because 3-4 years ago, 2017, 2018, it felt like suddenly we had to be everywhere. And the sentiment was very often from our students, why should I get on Snapchat? I missed the boat and there's just going to be another one tomorrow. Foursquare came and left, or I really invested in Twitter and it's not doing anything for me anymore. Yeah, probably true. I really invested in Twitter in 2009 as a journalist, and now I can't get one freaking retweet if I try. I feel like I'm talking to no one, and I just could care less about the platform, sadly. However, it did really well for me at that time, and don't underestimate it. I still have friends like Julie Van Rosendahl is a foodie in Calgary, and she always tells me, it's really great, I love Twitter. And I'm like, all right, I'm glad you do, that someone still does. But anyway, if it's right for you, it's right for you. My point is, commit to the long game. And that Twitter, for example, might have done really well for you when that was where your audience was, but go where the next audience is. It doesn't matter if you have 100 fans or 50 subscribers, you can build from that. And way better to have 100 authentic fans that you didn't buy from a bot in China, who are actually engaging with you and buying from you and hearing you and giving you insights and metrics as to what more they want and what resonates, than to have 10,000 people not opening your list. We'll talk about that in email marketing. I'm going to end here almost with a couple storytelling features and trends. Oh, why does it say 2019? Darn it. Not supposed to. These are new, I promise. Our friends at Calgary Heritage Roasting Company just opened a really beautiful roastery down the road. And we look at their feed and we can see that, again, it's kind of like Campground Goods or the travel agencies, tourism organizations are doing this really well. They're creating the aspirational idea of what it means to live and be a part of their brand. And it's not all forward-facing coffee, if at all. So our news feed, while it's curated and polished for many of us, if we can get there, it's important because this is our social search result. This is now what people are seeing when they are less inclined to go Google search it. If I hear about some cool new restaurant or chiropractor, and they're going to go onto Instagram. Why? Because that's where they hang out. 1 billion people. No, can't go wrong. And they're going to see what you've done for me lately. Who are you today? Who are you in your stories? Forget your feed, which is more polished, but cool. I really like your captions, your quips, you're quirky. I really like you guys. You're making me laugh, and that wins me over every time. But your Instagram stories are your live 24-hour action. And I could see you behind the scenes, opening the door to your shop in the morning, walking through, meeting with a farmer or a supplier or a patient, and just straight up showing up for me and being real. And I'm in. I'd way rather see that, and most people would, than what Google's telling me that you've put on your website, which is like a printed calling card or a business card today compared to our dynamic social feeds. All the live opportunities that we have now, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, the live opportunities to stand out and create that sense of FOMO or inclusion and awareness and belonging. Amazing. I do this with lifestyle meditation. My favorite gurus of meditation from Edmonton, the owner, Mandy Trapp, does a live every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And I look forward to it religiously and plan my day around it. And it's a really neat way for her to stay top of mind with me, but keep me, you know, just such a feeling like I've got a belonging and an advocacy for her company. IGTV. This has been underestimated for the last 2 years, and I do encourage you to think about it strongly. If you've ever wanted to, you know, have a YouTube channel and you can't quite wrap your head around it because you're already on Instagram, or you want to do more video and you want to be on TV, whatever it is, IGTV gives us each a free channel, a broadcasting tool. And what's cool about it is, like I said, we're already there. We're many of us already on Instagram. So it's not like we have to really overthink how to set up a YouTube channel tomorrow, although that's a really powerful place to be. So not many brands are doing IGTV. Vertical video is basically all it is. It's where we're shooting video on our phones upright. And I encourage you to go into IGTV in your personal or business account and just see what brands are doing. There's some great examples out there. West Elm Furniture Shop's doing a great job. Warby Parker eyeglasses. You know, television shows and celebrities have fantastic IGTV channels, which are really, really fun to watch. And then stories, I've mentioned already, but stories allow us to be so human, and they are so important. If we don't have an active story in our feed for a 24-hour period, we see our engagement fall off like crazy within our entire channel of Instagram. And when we have an active story, or 3 at minimum, ideally, every day, we have 8 times the clicks to our profile and our website. So now we're talking about meaningful actions taking place because we started in stories, and that's where people are hanging out. They're not scrolling their feeds as much anymore statistically. They're just going straight into stories and letting those stories swipe by and play for them, because how entertaining is that? It's like virtual, or it's like reality TV from all your favorite people, brands, and personalities. So a few more content ideas here for you that we'll end up with. And hopefully you're already doing some of this stuff, or you've experienced it, but now you're going to notice it when other brands are doing it, and just see how they're incorporating this really interesting variation of content categories into their news feeds. So this is a really important one here on the social media marketing bucket. This is a universal question though. What do you do? But now what do you really do? Much like in the last section, we asked, well, who are your people, but who are they really? What do they really want? Well, you know, you might be a brewery, but beyond that, what you're really doing is creating opportunities for, I don't know, perhaps, you know, recovering alcoholics to be a part of no, that's a terrible example. Pardon me. You're creating a space for community. You're creating, you know, a bigger piece of, let's get away from the brewery example. Hopefully you can go beyond just what do you do? What do you really do? When people ask me, what do you do? Oh, I run a digital marketing school, and I make terrible case study examples when put on the spot. What do I really do? Well, I empower people to start or grow their own business or their dream business and get them there. And even just saying that makes me so much more excited. So really understanding that. And if you don't know that, why are you doing what you do? And how am I, as an audience member, going to possibly care or understand or have you rise to the top of my choice bucket if you can't even describe what it is that you do better than your competition? So how are you transforming lives? That's the final piece of that. Really think about that. And you might just say, you know, we're transforming lives because our bottling process is better or our graphics are sweet. Great. But is there a way you're getting people not just to better Wi-Fi or internet at home, but to be able to live in a small town and run a business out of their backyard, and that it's not just about fiber optic internet, it's about connectivity to the world and their people and their place of birth or something like that. Go deep. And now some leading questions to bring out that value and expertise. So we're going to use the pillars that were given as the example, but you can switch these up if you've got better pillars or deeper, more meaningful ones to you. Starting out with the educate pillar. And the reason we ask these leading questions, content starters, is to just get you realizing how much content you truly have in there. And this you can think about as content starters for a blog or an e-newsletter, or perhaps even just a Facebook post. But I love these because it pulls questions out of people that answer the question like, I have nothing to write about. What would I write about? Well, step out of that idea, because you're probably asked all the time, you know, what is that product, or what is it that you really do, or how do I use this in my day-to-day life? Great, go answer those questions. Those how-tos. What are you most surprised, or what are people most surprised to learn about after they hire you? What kind of misconceptions could you clear up? People can usually talk about that for days. Or what could you talk about for days without ever getting bored in your industry or at a party? Maybe you should blog about that and break it up into 5 blogs or 5 headlines or whatever it is. And if you're not a writer and you're not a content creator, just start. Just put it down on paper and start jotting some of these things out. As a journalist for years and a so-called writer, if I had one skill, I look back on early writing or early blog posts or articles and I'm mortified because they're terrible. But the only way we get better is if we start. So I really encourage you to start pulling this stuff out of yourself and your team. Entertaining. What if we asked ourselves, you know, what are people loving the most about your company or your brand or your business? Great, bring that to life. What do you bring to the world? How could you talk about how, you know, this barbecue sauce that your company makes is in fact a game changer and make it really fun? What do you interact with the most? So what kind of click-throughs or things do you engage with and buy from, or calls to action do you love, and that you would possibly be able to incorporate more of into your own content? And then have fun. What is your own ninja skill? What is your secret passion or your secret nickname and those of your people? And how can you humanize your staff as much as possible? Finally, the inspire pillar as an example. What type of content do you think your audience would want to see more of? What's your story this week? What is the thing that captured your imagination that you're repeating? And could you find something similar that's happening in your own business? Probably. You just don't realize that most of us would be super inspired or excited to see what goes on behind the scenes of your naturopathic clinic or your restaurant or your farm or whatever it is, because it's boring to you or it's old hat. Don't underestimate or assume that. Go deeper. And with that, we're at the end of module 1 of course number 1. I promise they're not all this long. Like I said, we had a bit more theory and kind of overarching ideas to get through to start us off. I encourage you to go back to your workbook if you need to and to complete it. And I'm just going to quickly refer back over to this guy a little bit here to let you know that we'll be going into this worksheet in module number 2 and starting to flesh out some of these ideas. So a really good idea to go into the workbook and fill out some of these before we move on. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the very next module.